Hello everyone, I'm Aiden Sprower. Welcome to 2019. 2019, I believe, will be the year where our policies get tested. We've had many policies over the last year come into place. Some of them have been a little bit longer than a year, but everything will take effect in 2019. So a couple of things that we're going to be talking about in this video. So the policies have been, out there, but are fully taking effect now. We've had our stress test for mortgages that has been out there for a little while. Obviously, we've had interest rates that have been shooting upwards over the last year. The last time they did not move interest rates. However, there seems to be still the possibility of some small interest rate hikes, although some people are also calling that there may be a decrease in interest rates if the economy does not improve, and we've had one where it basically stayed the same. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of months when it comes to interest. There is obviously the policies, trade wars right now that are happening, U.S. and China in particular. So that hasn't been helping the overall world economy. So that's one of the things we're really going to take a look at: interest rates, see what happens there. We also have our vacancy tax or speculation tax, whatever you want to call it, that is coming in full place now. We've had it for a little bit, but I think it's really going to start affecting a bit more in 2019, where people will have to decide if they really do want to have that second property. Are they going to be renting it out and dealing with that, or are they going to decide to sell? And if they do decide to sell, will they be willing to do a price drop? And I think that's one of the things that we still haven't seen yet. We've seen some small price reductions. However, the consensus out there is that we can still wait a little bit, or sellers are deciding to wait before taking any offers. We have also our tax on properties over 3 million, or school tax, or whatever they want to call it. At the end of the day, it's a tax that comes into play this year as well. So we have seen a lot of people that have seen their taxes increase, particularly in that market segment. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out, and will it become a bit unaffordable even for people that have these houses to actually maintain them. So that's something to really keep in mind. You got to remember, a lot of people that are sitting on these homes that are worth $3 million is just on paper. A lot of them are retirees, and then they have pensions and so forth. So as the expenses of their house rate come up, they'll be forced to decide, will we keep the house even though they can defer taxes? Do we want to do that, or is it time to sell the home and cash out per se? But if they do decide to cash out, they're not going to be cashing out at a premium. So a lot of them are deciding to just sit tight for a while and see what happens. Airbnb regulations, as you all are aware, that came into play, same thing, a couple months ago. In my market segment, when I talk to people, a lot of them are deciding to change their short-term rentals to long-term rentals. There's still a couple of people though that are still doing short-term rentals. That said, believe it or not, a lot of them are not, but that really hasn't helped the rents though. So I'll come back to that in a moment. Our foreign buyers tax, that was obviously increased from 15 to 20%. We've had a lot less foreign buyer activity in the market. I have seen that come down substantially. So we have all those, different things, stress test, interest rate, vacancy tax, increased property tax with the school tax, foreign buyers tax. So tax, policy. And we've had it for some time now, but these things take time to really become a big issue in the market. And I do think that we had to start to see it just recently over the last couple of months. So we will be seeing what happens over the next couple of months and as the year kind of progresses. So what's my take on the market? We've just started 2019. I'm seeing that people are holding off. So if you're a seller, it's really taking the seller some time to acknowledge that there has been a change on the market. we have become so used to multiple offers, and you would see your neighbor's house sold for $1 million, yours will sell for just above that or at $1 million. And now we're starting to see some reductions in prices. So where your neighbor were selling for $1 million, nowadays it's more like 900,000. So things are changing. Again, every market is different. Every little pocket and segment will be a little bit different to the other. However, things have come down a little bit. That said, people that do not need to sell are not selling. So we're not seeing any panic selling. And that's the one thing that we'll have to wait and see. Will there be people willing to reduce their prices substantially at the point where they're willing to take a $200,000-300,000 loss, or not a loss, but let's say they could have sold for that amount, and they're willing to sell for way less. And that's what we're not seeing right now. The people that are selling their homes are either because they have passed away and the kids are taking care of the estate. It's either because they're in a situation of maybe a divorce, or they are being transferred to another place and they really, really need to sell. Because the one thing that has not changed, guys, and this is what really bugs me, these policies were meant to help the first-time buyers, were meant to help the renters try to get into the market. They were meant to help a certain, at least they were sold to us that they were meant to help a certain type of a certain criteria of our population, which is that first-time buyer and renters. That's the way it was sold, particularly from the current government. Helping unaffordability, helping people get into the market, or helping overall cost. Now, when they say affordability, they're not just talking about the cost of a condo or a cost of a property. They're talking about general overall expenses. Regardless if you're a renter or if you're a property owner. However, I will say one thing that I have not seen. On the contrary, I've seen it keep rising, and that is rents. There has not been a change in our rent volume, in our pricing, whatever you want to call it. Rents are so high right now, and in my opinion, there is no need for a seller to reduce their price or to sell a property if they could just put it on the market and collect a premium rent. And that is what I see right now. Some of you don't know, but I also, apart from selling homes and so forth, I do property management for a lot of people. And I'll give you an example. That tight market, let's say that downtown market, that one bedroom condo, or not even one bedroom condo. I'm talking, anywhere within a 30-minute to downtown, either driving, biking, walking, scooter, whatever you do, any that circle within a 30-minute radius into downtown. The tenancies and rents are still very, very high. I listed a one-bedroom condo for rent about 2 days ago. Premium rent at $2,200 a month. A decent location. Good building. Nothing spectacular, but a good overall place to live. And you know what, guys? I had over 10 inquiries in the first couple of days that it went on. 10 inquiries. We had 3-4 applications, and we're just about to rent it out right away at a premium rate. So that kind of gives you the sense of what we are. Even though that you think that prices may be coming down on the real estate side, it really hasn't happen in the rentals, and I don't see that happening because for some reason there is no inventory for rent. Like, you look out there and I'm talking to renters. This is not me making up numbers here or saying, there is not much availability, but I'll talk to these renters and they'll tell me not a lot of good stuff out there, a lot of garbage out there. So anything that is half decent, that is priced well, everybody wants to live in it. So that's the one thing I'm having a really hard time with. It is still, just because prices are coming down on the real estate side doesn't mean that rents will follow suit right away. And if there's not enough inventory, if there's not a lot of option out there, rents will not fall. And if people, a lot of people, I guess, are deciding not to rent or don't want to hassle rent, even though they've taken it off Airbnb. Maybe a couple have said, you know what, I'm not going to rent it anymore, or whatever the case may be. So as of right now, beginning 2019, we have not seen a change in our rents. On the contrary, our rents are still going upward. there is not a lot of inventory when it comes to that rental market. So I do suspect that things, unless there's a change, will continue the same. And I think that's why maybe a lot of people that are selling their homes have been reluctant to drop their prices, because they, if they basically, if they don't sell it for the price that they want, and they can always rent it and get premium, and if it's not being paid completely, or not covering everything, pretty much it's a very small loss that they'll take, maybe pay just the maintenance fees or whatever the case may be. Because think about it, a one bedroom right now downtown is renting for about $2,200. That is a lot of money, and depending on if you have 20% down on a property, your mortgage payment might be about $2,300 a month, $2,400 a month. So you're not losing much, and if you've paid it down, the numbers are still working. So as long as you're getting these high rents, the numbers are still working on the financing of things, and renting it out and so forth. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple months. I think that the real test for this market will be the spring market. That is when we're going to see, how much have sellers been really willing to reduce their prices, if they are at all, and if buyers are willing to start jumping in and buying property again. But again, those tight markets, condo market, even though we're starting to see a bit of a price reduction, it's not by much, and people that are selling, again, are only a few. The ones that really need to sell, or that are moving, or again, divorce, death. These are the people that are selling, and unfortunately, that's not a lot of people. You don't get a lot of deaths, a lot of divorces. It's a small part of our population that goes through these things, and that's why we're not seeing huge amount of inventory coming on the market. I do, however, foresee if interest rates do start to rise and there is a bit more pressure, then possibly we'll see some more people, but that's still up in the air. So I think 2019 will be a very balanced market. It will, however, be a good market for people that have been sitting on maybe condos for a while, or townhouses, that do want to jump into that detached market. The gap has never been closer. So when you're having a condo that is selling for $700,000, a detached house is at 1.1, 1.2. Townhouses that have been again selling for about $1 million, and you have townhouses and houses now at 1.1, 1.2. That gap has really become a lot smaller. So definitely something to consider if you are that move up market. If you are going to be moving up in that market, you may not be selling at prime, peak prices for 2016, 2017. However, you'll still be getting a good deal on your purchase, and everything's relevant. I always tell people, you make your money on the buys, not so much on the sells, and that's a good mindset to have, to buy when it's a good time, and you might not sell for premium top dollar, but you'll be getting into something much better. So always options out there. Always keep an eye. It depends a lot on the situation, on the person, when they bought their last place, how long they've had it, how much equity they've been able to get over the last couple of years, and how things are looking that way. But it will definitely be an interesting market. I think 2019 will be the real test for Vancouver and surrounding areas. Will we start to see some real price drops, and where people actually want to buy it? Or will we kind of see things the same? And spring market will be the test. It generally tends to get busy during that time. I know for that detached market, it will be a very good test. I've been talking to a couple of developers around the area, and it all seems that they all want to get back to work. So will these developers now see the opportunity to buy homes and start building and so forth? As the months go into middle of the year and so forth, we'll have a much better picture of what's been going on. But it will be an interesting year. That's why I call it the real test of the policies year. We'll have the the stress test all in place, the interest rates, vacancy tax increase over $3 million, school tax, the foreign buyers at 20%, Airbnb regulations in place. I mean, something has to give. So far, it hasn't. It's slowed down and it's reduced prices a little bit, but nothing to what a lot of people expected as of yet. And in my personal opinion, if rents do not change, if we do not see a decrease in the rent's value, then there's no reason why people will panic sell. And that is that comes from a view from a property manager, a realtor, a mortgage broker. If rents are still covering and are still managing the debt, then things will not move too much. That's why I tell renters, if you're paying $2,500 a month, $3,000 in rent, and you are covering your landlord's debt and your the property owner, you're basically paying their house off. You really got to consider, what do I need to do to buy a property, because there's so much money that is being spent on rent right now, and people need to get a sense of that amount and see what they can do better with that money. And it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple months. Anyway, guys, that is my outlook. Keep out there. Again, if you're buying a place, we bought it the last 2 years, keep it for the next 3, 5 years, 6 years at a minimum. That's the golden rule. Things will get better. Do not panic sell. Things will get better overall, unless there's a circumstance that you need to sell. Consider that all your options before doing that when it's not the right time. But again, if you're moving up, it might be a good opportunity. Keep everything in mind. Anyway, guys, I wish you a great day. Always nice to see you, and we'll see what 2019 will say. Have a wonderful day.